Hi there, welcome to the Nerd Presgrave case. Today we're focusing in on a very important area to do with the party house, and that's just outside the front porchway and the doorway leading into the house. A range of different events or supposed events had occurred on the front porchway area, and in no particular order, ranging from Jasmine Milan at 3:41 taking a Snapchat selfie announcing Noah is kind of missing, to later Avery and Carter supposedly arguing amongst each other post disappearance of Noah and video footage of it existing out there supposedly. Then other footage, well not footage, other situations such as 6:30 in the morning onwards from Kaden's recollection and his timeline, claiming that when he was moving about tidying some stuff up, beer cans, he noticed that the front porchway area, the steps and spot, there was like a wet damp patch. But what caused it? Has it got anything to do with the river trip heading on down there at some point? Has it got anything to do with Noah being washed off, as people claim as a theory? Noah's killed, murdered, washed off on the front porchway, then moved on? Or does it lead to the event of what Kathy Bingham suggested in her outlook, as in Presgrave was murdered on the front porchway, despite the closeness of it to the party house and witnesses on the other side of the door? And so on, events like that. A range of stuff that did or may have happened on the front porchway. Quite a lot of activity and volume. How much DNA evidence is left behind? How much does it tell a story behind it? And then the secondary feature, I said about the cooler full of alcohol, from Kaden Pressy being linked to Nerd Presgrave being thrown into the mix of a secondary cooler, which may be a rumour, but it's still been acknowledged, to then even another one which may have been outside on the front patio area near to the porchway. Is it a separate one? Is it the same one? There's some mysteries. And then even the likes of Travis Monson and Colton Newton that were at the party on the Saturday and at some point stole alcohol. Did they take it from the cooler? Did they take the cooler themselves? Was there any spillages along the way? All kinds of areas we can look at to try and figure out, is there a sinister, deeper meaning behind the porchway area, near to the patio? Any other events that could have happened, any other conversations which may have occurred, and so on. And the mention of the doorbell camera too. Just bringing it all together, sharing with you the photos, looking back on, reflecting, circling and highlighting points of interest to explain how one thing could have caused the other, and just links along the way, okay? I've done an analysis inside some of the rooms of the party house and partly the kitchen area, the last one what I did, so there's no harm in doing the outside as well. Welcome if you are currently here during the live premiere. Share your thoughts and opinions in the live chat box on the right hand side of the screen. If you do want to catch up with recent coverage, you'll find the full playlist top right corner up there where the eye symbol is. And be sure to drop your comments down below under the video. That will help with spreading awareness and the engagement, and then it can create more discussions and new ideas, and it can be very helpful for most people. And if you do want to support my channel, there is a PayPal link below in the comments pinned message with channel membership. The order of how we'll do things today: I'm going to jump straight into a slideshow, analyse each photo bit by bit, add in theories, add in the so-called events, make sense of the importance of them and how well it links to Noah's death or just the build up to it, and so on. And then if we need to expand, we can do so. Without further ado, let's begin. The first screenshot, what you're looking at, is from Saturday, but the main focal point this time is what's going on in the background. A couple of guys standing, another person sitting down, but what are they sitting on? It was suggested previously that it was a cooler, a box where alcohol could be stored within it. What's the chances of that? Could be possible. There were cans, such as early Monday morning, 1:05 a.m, when there was some cans on the floor, so you could make the link there when we get to that slide later on. Tried enhancing the image as much as possible. Not too sure who it is sat on it. The height of the box, the height of the object is quite tall, so is it likely to be a cooler? Could it be something else? I mean, it's up against the steps going up to the porchway. You can see the railing as well, but they are definitely sat on something, leaning close to the railing area. We've got the porchway, which we'll focus on in a separate slide. How significant is it with having a cooler full of alcohol? Well, it's just trying to figure out whose does it belong to, who brought it down, who provided it, and are they linked and associated with that alcohol as well? Considering ever since the wrongful death lawsuit, and you've had Caleb speak on behalf of Jack, in which Jack had supposedly said everybody, like any other time, came on down to the party with their own alcohol. What, showing up drunk already, or getting drunk at the party with their own alcohol? Who knows, depends how you interpret it. So if everyone came down with their own alcohol, who had the cooler, or a cooler, and did they already have alcohol within it? You'd likely think so. What does this do for Noah's death or the outcome? I guess it just highlights the presence of alcohol, the access to it, the ease of it. But if Noah was to drink too much, which he supposedly did, it can make you vulnerable, as in your reflex time, your reaction timing, your mind and all that can be impacted and slowed down. So if you had to brace or defend yourself, you may not be able to. You may not be able to think as quick as you normally would when sober. But then, certain issues with the alcohol can be the enabling factor, allowing another party goer or even some kind of stranger under the influence of alcohol to become enraged, to be reactionary and maybe a little aggressive physically or maybe just verbally, and it escalates from there. A person who's sober could appear as somewhat of an angel, but then once drunk, they reveal a completely different side to them. That's why, social hosting or not, whether you want to focus in on that, the simple question is, if no alcohol was present at the party but everything else remained the same, would Noah Presgrave have still died, yes or no? And if he still died, would it be treated more or less of murder compared to how it is here? Do people associate the murder outcome because it's associated with the social hosting and the alcohol in the first place? It'd be interesting to get to the bottom of that and isolate the different events to figure out what people truly think based on the raw factors at hand. So you take it in. If you notice anything else of interest in the background, feel free to do so. But it was brought up once or twice about a person sat down, which may have been on a cooler, but does it match or compare to what we may see in a different slide? We will get to that. This one a bit more to the right, slightly more enhanced, a bit clearer as well. The porchway, got to take in mind that the steps go up and down on both sides. So you can go up from, Noah's side, and you can go up the steps from the other side where the guy in the black shirt in the background is at. So it's not just a one-way up system from the looks of it, to my knowledge. So it is quite accessible. However, the platform itself is rather small. And it's Kaden Bet said, the porchway area, there was a wet patch. So the wet patch, you'd think on the base ground there. But because of the size of it, it wouldn't have been that big, the pool or the wet patch. But to try and figure out what caused it, it could be numerous reasons. If people are going in and out, if a drink is spilled, if somebody threw up and then another person had to wash it down or briefly wash it away, that could explain that. If someone was moving a cooler without alcohol and ice within it, there could have been a bit of spillage, which led to ice falling on the floor a bit and then it melting eventually, creating a wet patch as well. Or someone just dropping a drink. There's all these different possibilities that could have happened, explained in innocent ways. With hard evidence, no, just suggestions at this moment. But the same can be applied to the outlook of those that think it's more sinister that Noah Presgrave was washed off with evidence on the front porchway. Out the whole area that you have of the party house property outside, the land, the field, even the patio area where there's a bit more space, right? The patio area compared to the front porchway, if you was to wash something down, are you going to be washing it off right outside of the doorway? Or are you going to be doing it a bit of distance away from the house? Likely distance from the house. What, because you're trying to cover something up and you don't want anyone to see? Well, it depends what you're actually doing and the reason for it, but it's not going to be the be all and end all that particular reason. It's just going to be common sense that if you're going to be wetting something, you don't want to be getting other stuff wet or too close to the house, just for common sense reasons. If you've got more space to do it nearby, you might as well do it there than on a tiny little platform. But on that tiny little platform, as I said, it's been mentioned that Avery and Carter were arguing. Over what exactly? Who knows? As for the exact time, not given, but I'm interpreting that if it had happened after 3:41, it's probably because they're arguing as in Noah's gone as in dead, or just gone as in missing, and each one's blaming one another for that reason, that outcome. I believe it was mentioned by Justin Roy originally. If I'm wrong, then the only other person I can think of is Kaden Pressy, because it was mentioned on one of the Parts in True Crime interviews, and it was highlighted that there was a person outside recording it all. Now, from what angle and where and what time and who by and why would they do that? Recording it for the fun, for the lols, or because they were documenting something in the moment because they knew of more? Was it done as a means of preserving the case, just as for Noah? Was it a means of protecting themselves? Was it used as a means of blackmail down the line to get some people to shut up? Did they didn't give someone what they wanted? It depends how you look at it, of course. So for a range of different events to happen in such a small space and surface area, it's quite interesting that. Now, I don't know if the party house has a back door. You may assume so, but I've never seen it. And as I said, whilst we are looking at the front patio area, there is a rear patio area as well with another overhanging roof going onto the pasture. How come we've not seen any video footage from round the back of the house? Did no partygoers ever go round the back of the house? Find that hard to believe. Been mentioned, I believe, by BBC that there was decking and a swimming pool. Now, was the swimming pool active at the time? If it was, why did no one use it? Or more so, why is there no footage of people using it? You'd think it'd be like a draw factor to get people out, to get into the water, to mess about, play around, besides punching objects and grazing knuckles like how Noah did. Jump in the water, be cool, stay cool, and whatever else in between. So it's interesting how there are still missing points of views from the party, from the environment. Would it make it any clearer though to Noah's death? Maybe not, but it might add more of a full picture as to who was there, what people were getting up to, what the atmosphere was like, and further reinforcing that it was mainly positive, and the more positive the atmosphere is, the harder it is to believe that anyone could be responsible for Noah's death, primarily for that. But there might be some side factors along the way. This in particular is at 10:50 p.m. Sunday night when Kaden Pressy is sat down, panning the camera around. Primary reason behind this was to show Georgia in the background, cousin to Kaden, niece to Alicia, as in, hey, she's okay, she's at the party, she's fine and safe, at least at 10:50. Unlike 12:48 in the morning, 00:48 when she was throwing up. That's a different story, that. But what's interesting is when Kaden Pressy was panning around inside the house to the far left area, we can highlight some interesting areas here. So just for reference, and I'll zoom on in. The arrow, what you see over that way there, that is pointing towards the kitchen area. The arrow, what you see there, is of the doorway. Okay? And then on the left, there appears to be a cooler right there. Okay, it appears to be like a black cooler. Height of it, quite tall. Is that the supposed cooler that Kaden Pressy was told by Renee Millan to take home? Even though Renee contests and says, I never told Kaden to take it. I never forced Kaden to leave the party house, and so on. Not really ever seen it cleared up anymore or reinforced anymore since, so kind of a mystery in some way. I mean, if Kaden was supposed to take it home and he was ordered to, who was the person that brought it in the first place, and why couldn't they take it back? If it's their own possession, you'd expect them to take it back themselves. Why is it left behind? Or was it already at the party house to begin with, and then someone had to take it, take the rap, take the blame, even though they didn't get caught out? But if so, just to be safe, get someone else to do it, be a sacrificial lamb. Is that how you interpret it? Just above the cooler, you got the blinds, you got the frame of the window on the left-hand side, and that will be that window there, likely behind Noah's head, right? Behind Noah's head, on the other side, is this inside of the house, and the door that you see there is likely the door that you see back there, even though you can't see it from this angle, but you will be able to a bit later with Jasmine Milam. Anything significant about the door? Well, there's supposedly a Ring a doorbell camera on it. Now, depends how the door's opening inwards, as which most will do anyway, of course, for safety reasons. So with the door opening inwards, personally, it's pretty hard to determine whether it's got a camera on or not from this angle and this clarity, but it's been claimed to have a camera. It just wasn't working, which is interesting. I mean, if the partygoers or people that live there were somewhat alert of their safety, and I don't mean post-death of Noah when they were targeted or threatened, but before that, unless they felt nothing wrong could go and happen. So there was a neglect when it came to cameras on the property and safety there. Maybe if older people were present, more grown and about, they'd be thinking, right, we need to take more action, we need to maintain the cameras, we need to maintain this and that. But as for those that were living there at the time who were younger, probably weren't prioritising it, so it was neglected, left behind. But even if it was neglected, left behind, if there is a hired hand or a hired farm worker on site that comes and goes every now and then, are they ever tasked with maintenance of the party house itself, the outsides, the cameras, the trail cameras? Do they have a part within that? If they did, how come they didn't bother? Were they ordered not to? Did they not think it was needed or necessary? You let me know your thoughts below. Interesting, now some like furniture as well, like table and chair maybe, or just a wooden chair at least, and then a table lower down. I don't know, what would you call that? Is it like it's not a living room. The living room's what Kaden Pressy's within. Is it a hallway? To what exactly? Because it looks quite shallow, the depth of it. There's a light, it's quite bright itself. It's interesting, Van. I don't think we see any photos any closer than what we're looking at. Kaden Pressy sat down, swiveling around to his left. So in terms of the distance as well, because this can be another thing, that is the supposed door that slammed open when Jack Newton came back to announce the news of Noah's death, and it was loud enough to wake Kaden Pressy up, but not enough to wake up the other guys, in which Kaden had to wake up Brylan, Mikey and Isaac about it. Which is interesting because I thought some of them never went to sleep. If they never went to sleep and were just resting, or for example Mikey Lair never went to sleep, then Kaden wouldn't have to wake one of the guys or most of the guys up. And even if they were asleep, you'd expect them to be woken up by a loud bang if Kaden Pressy was as well. And whoever that was on that sofa back there, that sofa's closer to the doorway, closer to the sound of the banging. Kaden's further back and still managed to hear it, but the other guys didn't, so Kaden claimed to have woken the people up. That's what I find interesting. You'd think the noise is loud enough to spread awareness that something's happened, to startle those that are resting or more so asleep. It is a loud, sudden bang. You just expect that. The only other factor to take in mind is the distance from the entranceway leading to the lounge area where Kaden sat. There's a bit of distance to cover when walking back and forth, depending on certain events taking place, that I'm guessing Mikey Lair would have to have walked through and past Kaden that way to the door, to exit outside the door there, and to then move further down that way, down the patio area, northeast south, which is more west behind those two guys, where the traffic cone is, behind the person sat down, where that glowing reflective object is. That is the traffic barrel, in which at 2:32 Pepe Graham was stood beside and Mikey was underneath it. But it's just the fact that that was at 2:32. Kaden Pressy was asleep, well, had gone to sleep at 2 in the morning. By 2:32 was still asleep when Mikey was up on the go, moving about, unknown to Kaden. The next time Kaden wakes up is at 2:42, 11 minutes later after that snap of Mikey outside. And by then, when Kaden has woken up, Mikey is back on the floor area. But to Kaden's knowledge, Mikey had never moved and never done anything in between that period of time because he was asleep, Kaden. And from when Kaden saw Mikey start to finish, Mikey was in the same spot. But in between, when Kaden was asleep, Mikey was doing other stuff, from the looks of it, supposedly. So what else did Kaden Pressy witness, which was only half of the story, but he assumed that it was from start to finish and there was no changes in between? It does make you question, right? So it's not just all about the cooler and the impact it has on the case, but it's also about the other little factors and features in between what we notice along the way. The distance of moving from one spot to another, any creaky floorboards, any noises, Mikey moving and anybody else, would it be enough to wake Kaden Pressy up, and so on. It's interesting. There's a bit of distance from point A to point B, and if Noah was, as some people claimed, to be dragged into the house, carried into the house, taken to the shower to be washed of evidence whilst dead, bleeding and whatnot, surely it would get all over the carpet, right? And there was no report of blood on the carpet, so And why would you take a dead body into a house where all witnesses are out, whether they're awake, half asleep, or just asleep? It just seems too risky and too much of a risk. The outside aspect, the front porchway, as much as some events may have claimed to have happened, and as significant as they are, if they're true, what's the practicality and likelihood, the chances of it taking place when it's such a small platform? The concept of Avery and Carter arguing is possible. The situation with Jasmine doing a snap is evident because we've seen it ourselves. But the other possible events don't seem as likely. As for the mention of Kaden and a wet patch, there'd be no reason to lie about that, but the explanation behind the wet patch could be for numerous reasons, and if we get onto it eventually, we'll highlight it. But just for an example, this was, I think, Saturday, and in the background, in the jeans, the white shirt, I believe that is Pepe Guam, and then maybe on the right in the black shirt is Carlson Myers. In terms of the focus on the ground area, the patio, it's quite a big surface area and stretch all the way down, but don't really see any wet patches or so. So take that into consideration. There's some debris bits on the ground from whatever material it is that they've bashed into, ploughed into, punched, just like how I think it's Carter Combs ended up running through some block, some object which broke into half, and Jack seems to be holding it, or part of it at least. It may have been cardboard or polystyrene, just messing about, nothing too serious and deep. But it's just about trying to work out when markings, patches, wet spots appeared on the ground to either justify some kind of watering, some kind of wash down, how it could have been caused, the timing of it. If this is only Saturday, for example, and I'm thinking it's Saturday, I could be wrong. It's just because the person on the right, I don't know if that's Noah Presco because it's so blinding the light, but it does appear to be khaki grey shorts, and if that really was true, then it's likely Noah, and it'd likely be Saturday because that's the day when he was wearing them specifically. Onwards, he was wearing black shorts, and so. The other thing which hasn't really been mentioned much since, I'll just bring it up once again briefly, is the mention of the barn, the shed in the background, how it's open, the actual shutter, whatever you want to call it, behind Pepe, it's open. What was it used for? To store vehicles in? That would make sense, of course, but on a different day or a different angle, it was shut. Open and shut, so it was used back and forth just for storage of vehicles, or did any partygoers go inside of the shed, the barn area, to hang out, to drink? It's just a different environment, a different location, maybe with different people present, trying to work out what went on conversation-wise, what was the atmosphere like. Was Noah Presgrove ever present at the shed area? Did he ever go inside? Did he confront anyone? When Noah had walked away, was Noah may have been taken or ambushed to over that way and dragged across the grass to cause the shoelaces inside the laces? That was just a suggestion which I've mentioned previous. It's just worth acknowledging. You let me know if you notice anything else of interest on the patio area. I know in the background, I believe you got some kind of ride-on lawnmower, which is a bit random how it's being used or rested on, but just people messing about won't cause that much harm. I don't think this ride-on lawnmower would be causing injuries to Noah, but for some not weird reason, but just to be outside of the box, which is probably not likely, and it might be silly, but just to suggest it. Do you think that supposed ride-on lawnmower has anything whatsoever to do with any injuries to Noah whatsoever, or is it very unlikely? If you disagree, that's okay. I think the only thing that came to my head really quickly, and I'm probably wrong, was just the blade of the lawnmower underneath, if any of that could have caused damage to Noah's head in some way. I could be wrong, but might as well just highlight it whilst it's here. It's not been talked about before, by me at least. Do we see any other angles of the supposed cooler box? We don't from this angle. But it was more so just to focus on the patio, the ground area, when things were wet, when they were dry. And this one, being 1:05 in the morning of Monday, more relevant as in towards the end of the patio west, you do have clear, wet, visible patches on the ground where water's collected or liquid, draining off down towards the grass area. I've also labelled it with circles just to explain what caused the wetness, right? Because once you work out wetness in some areas, what caused it, then you may be able to link and associate it with what Kaden saw on the front porchway, a wet patch, maybe by the same thing. So you got Noah Presgrove on the left, you got Brian Sweat on the right, in the background you got the birthday girl Avery and Isaac Rojas out of sight. Behind Brylan, I think that might be Kaden Pressy's red Cherokee. Zooming in, what we've got first of all is Brylan Sweat has a can in his hand. I think maybe in the process of shotgunning or was about to or could have. Possibly a beer can alcohol. That's one factor. Contains liquid. If it was to be spilt, if you used to shotgun it, if it burst out, leaked a little, it could collect on the ground causing a wet patch. Now Presgrove got a can in his pocket area there. As for in the hand, there was that audio or dialogue where Brylan, as it could be interpreted, said something about, I'll stab you, or this could stab you. Is that really the case? Can't really see it. If it is a knife, it's a bit hard to see. Now, just before that, when it was panning in on Isaac in the background, Isaac looked over and said, that will kill you. Not he will kill you or you will kill him, but that. Whatever that means will kill you. Doesn't sound like he's referring to a person. And Isaac, when he was saying that, was looking towards Brylan Sweat. Maybe it was like, hey, Brylan, don't be doing that, because if you do, he will kill you. Maybe not literally, but beat him down or embarrass him because Noah's a good wrestler. But at the end of the day, this particular event, Noah Presgrove was asking for it. He kept saying, come on, hit me. Teased Brylan and even kind of like made a bit of contact to say, come on, do it now. I promise I won't retaliate back. And Noah followed through with his promise. Just messing about, it's not that deep. I mean, when Shandon slapped Noah braced for it, accepted it, but did not resist, did not ask either. So there's a bit of a difference. Beside that, focusing in on the ground area, I know, just to highlight it right now, people have mentioned that the birthday girl Avery and her fluffy slippers sounds shocking, but it's been mentioned that people have been influenced or picked up on it from an interview by Donna Bond, and Donna Bond, when talking about the highway to scene at a certain time earlier, that there was rumours or uncertain information talk going about which Donna heard or it was passed on to her, in which Donna isn't too sure about herself, that at the highway there was people there, and one of which could have been wearing fluffy or pink slippers of some sort, but Donna could be wrong. But the wording of that, and then you see slippers here, you think, oh, it links. So, okay, then, if it was true, what's Avery doing at the highway at any given time? Because from our knowledge, when it comes to party goers, the ones that did attend the highway at some point at least was Jack, it was Kaden, Brylan, Mikey, Isaac, Stephanie from a distance, as in Milan, Caleb, Renee, but then they're like the parents coming on in. So there wasn't that many party goers that actually went to the highway. And as for all of the girls, with the exception of Stephanie returning back to the party with Renee, as for the rest of the girls that were party goers, they did not go down to the highway to my knowledge. So if there's fluffy slippers at the highway at some time, at some point, it could link to this here with Avery being there. But if the information which Donna received or was talking about was said with a grain of salt, a level of uncertainty, can't be for sure, could just treat it as a bit of a coincidence. But it doesn't have to be completely dismissed, but at the same time it doesn't have to be completely reinforced and pushed too hard. But I think that's enough focusing on fluffy slippers for today. More so focusing in on the cans. That appears to be an empty can there, but no liquid present. Another can stood up behind Noah's left leg on the side. There is, I believe, a bottle there. An empty bottle of wine, an empty bottle of alcohol. Is it vodka? I don't know personally. It looks to be a bigger bottle. It's not a can. Doesn't appear to be beer and a different form of alcohol. I'm trying to work out at what angle, what positioning was the likes of Georgia at when she was slumped over as she was on the edge of the patio, just the patio concrete. Was it round here somewhere where this stood? I know the positioning of Kaden Pressy was a bit awkward because it was from the side, or it was facing Georgia, but the photo that was taken was from a side profile, as if Kaden was reaching over to the side, twisting his body to take an awkward photo angle, which I don't quite understand personally, but there's that. As well, focusing in over here on the left, might not be able to fit it in on screen, so I'll just move it over as best as I can. Look at all that wetness, trickles of it. It's like a confluence, a river. Separate streams which join together further down the line, meet up and flow on continuously as one. Kind of like how I met Strawberry in a way. Anyway, you got the cans there besides one another, which may have been responsible for the leakage, the spillage. If the cans have been knocked over, then picked back up. It's not that deep. It's not that big of a deal. However, if it can be explained innocently, maybe the same can apply to what Kaden Pressy witnessed on the porchway. Take in mind, Kaden isn't the one to go all out and say, well, there was a wet patch on the front porchway, meaning that must be when Pressy was killed. It wasn't mentioned like that. It's more so probably the general public that was influenced and added on to it the possibilities of what may have caused it. Okay? What else do we have? This is back to the porchway, the door behind her, the door being shut. Whereas in some previous slides, as in Sunday night, it appears that the door was open. Is it a big deal? No. The only other question I do have, because I know in America you can have double doors. You can have a thin one, then you can have a main door. Are there double doors here, or is it just one door only? If anyone knows, feel free to let me know. That door's opened inwards. Now, it could just be left open because of the heat levels, because it's hot, it's humid, warm. If that's so, okay. But why would it then be shut? Is it shut when Jasmine took the selfie, as innocent as it was, because she wanted privacy? Maybe. Was the door shut as well when Avery and Carter were arguing with each other? And to be honest, why would they argue just outside of the party house, outside of the door? Why not go down the dirt road? Why not go down a bit west towards the trailer, the other buildings, away from it all, so then they can really shout it out and have a go at one another for whatever reason? Why do it so close to the house? Maybe it's just for convenience. Can't be bothered to cover all that distance on foot. Might as well just do it outside of the house, have a quick chat, private catch-up, an argument, blow off some steam, whatever it is. Did Jasmine Milan need alone time when she took the selfie at 3:41? Or is it just a coincidence, as in going outside for a breather to catch some air and also to look for Noah? Was the selfie all because of trying to find Noah, or was it just on the spot idea? Jasmine goes outside to get some air, looks about, can't see Noah. Maybe he's gone, maybe he's missing. Oh well, I'll just do a funny post about it and then continue on as if not much has happened, because they wouldn't be anticipating much to happen at the time. Yes, there's wetness on her shirt a little bit, wetness on the hair. 3:41, this is taken. Probably not far from when the shower occurred a bit earlier, right? Because you got to take in mind the humidity, you got to take in mind the evaporation rate and the heat levels, that if it's quite warm and hot, that things, if wet, are probably going to dry up quicker. Things could melt, ice could melt. If any ice is spilt, any spillages of liquid, that could dry up quick. So based on what Kaden Pressy saw at his timeline stamp, does it link to any particular events based on the timing of it all? And we'll get to that in a second. But you let me know if you've got any unfinished business with this. Door in the background, ring a doorbell camera. I can't see it unless it's that little thing there over the back of her head. Could be wrong about it. The door itself looks rather small. I don't think I'd be able to fit through that myself. Back to this again, just to show the door off. I think it's just the panelling that makes it look smaller. Then you've got part of the Red River, not the exact spot, but just as an example photo. It's wet, there's water, and it's been mentioned by BBC that the guys, Noah Presgrove, went down there every day whilst at the party. So the more times going down to the river, is it possible that when they returned back to the house, returned back to the porch, the patio, that's what caused the particular wet spot that Kaden saw at 6:30 onwards in the morning of Monday? Is that likely? Well, is it likely for someone like Noah Presgrove or any other ones else in between to go down to Red River past midnight, really early hours of Monday morning? Or would they have gone to the river later on, such as at 3, 4, 5 in the morning, then returning back and dripping wet? Well, you'd think by common sense that depending on how you got down to Red River in the first place, you may have driven down, depending what route you took, just to get there quicker. And if you're driving from point A to point B, when you've finished in the water and you get out, you're probably going to have a towel. It's not likely that you're going to walk in, get into your vehicle as a driver or passenger soaking wet to then drive on. It just doesn't seem likely, does it? You expect there to be a towel, quick little dry dab, and then get in and then drive back. And even if you were still a little wet in some areas, more so wet on the hair, and you didn't have much time to dry off, or you weren't that bothered about it, mithered, but when you do eventually get back to the place, you may have dried off anyway naturally. Whether you had air conditioning on in the vehicle, that could have caused a speed up in evaporation of wetness on your body. I think it was Lisa that suggested it, and there's no harm in suggesting it. It's a good idea, of course, if there's a water source nearby, could explain it. The alternative though, right, because the distance from Red River, a certain location of it, from there and back to the party house, the Porchway area, where there could be a wet patches like Kaden documented, highlighted in the circle there, that you'd expect other wet patches before the actual step, the actual porchway. The patio should have wet footprints, maybe dribble marks as well, and beyond, like creating like a trail from point A to point B, but some of it would have faded, some of it would have dried up before the rest. The freshest remains, the older bit dries up because of the temperatures out there. If it's colder and more damp, wet patches can be preserved for longer. So it could date back earlier, at an earlier time at the party, relevant to when Noah may have walked away or shortly went missing after. But if there was any link to Noah Presgrave possibly being washed down of evidence outside on the Porchway area, or just washing down of evidence, incriminating evidence in some way, that by the time hours passed on, and based on Kaden's recollection of 6:30 or onwards, because Renee said she got there at 7, from 6:30 to 7 onwards does not matter. If anything happened earlier before that with wetness, cleaning, removing of evidence, the wetness probably would have dried up by then and it wouldn't be visible because of the temperatures, in my opinion. So likely it would have had to have happened shortly around the time of just before Kaden coming across it. And that could be when people are coming in and out of the house, moving stuff about. If it was at the time when Kaden was cleaning up the beer cans, if anyone else was chipping in, assisting or helping in some way, that'd be collecting the cooler, somebody's cooler, dropping some ice, spilling some liquid when in a bit of a rush, clumsy recklessness, it could happen. And if a cooler, for example, is the one back there, maybe it was being brought into the house for some reason, maybe because it belongs at the house or it belongs to someone, so bringing it back in, but going up the stairs, carrying it solo or with somebody, and then it slips and drops, or it spills out, and then there's all wetness on the ground area of the porchway. And if not that, could well be the other cooler, which you see there. The cooler itself is not a murder weapon, right? From the looks of it. The cooler isn't the reason for Noah walking away, but the cooler or coolers play a role in the likes of Travis Monson. And I don't know if I've got images of Travis Monson here, so just give me a second. Red River, not likely. Party house from the outside perspective, and then the highway with Kaden, we'll get to that. So I don't at the minute, but Kaden Pressy did mention that Travis Monson and Colton stole alcohol from the party house. It does differ greatly. Whilst Kaden Pressy, in his police interview, I believe it was vague. Kaden worded it as if it happened Sunday night, maybe early Monday morning. That's how it was originally worded. That's how Kaden Pressy stated it originally, that in 2024 of June, police interview claimed that Travis Monson, Colton Newton returned back to the party house and came in and stole some alcohol, and Kaden kind of witnessed it himself. The problem is with that, Kaden Pressy also said in his own words on text-based communication, hard evidence of it, at some point in 2023. I think it might have been 1 month after Noah's death. That's how fresh it was. And Kaden Pressy claimed that Travis Monson and Colton Newton were at the party on Saturday. They left, then returned back later on Saturday and were told to leave by Jack, and they did not return back after that point. So what Kaden had said privately to a stranger online greatly differs to what he told police. One was in 2023, where you'd expect it to be more fresh. The other one was 2024, when Kaden changed it to, oh no, it wasn't Saturday, it was Sunday and Monday. It's not a good look. Which one's true? What Kaden originally said earlier, or what Kaden said later at a later point where his memory could have been impacted, but he's also saying it to direct authority and not member of the general public? Which one are you going to believe in most? We've got issues there, but whatever day Travis and Colton came to steal alcohol, it kind of matters. Okay, still the timing of, even if it was on the same day but earlier, the wetness may not remain there till 6:30 onwards when Kaden eventually noticed it. That before 6:30, such as 1:05 in the morning when Kaden Pressy, to my knowledge, was last outside recording footage. After that, Kaden, I guess, going inside, in that small spell of time, 1:05 in the morning and a bit onwards, going in and out, not noticing any wet patches there. So it'd have to be later on, closer around the time of when Noah was walking off, who knows, onwards. Seems to be that way. If by some chance Travis and Colton, which Kaden Pressy claimed in the Parts in True Crime interview, that they, not Parts in True Crime, the police interviewed Travis and Colton, if they did steal alcohol, would it have been from one of the coolers? If so, did they take the cooler with them? Did they make an attempt? Did they spill it on the way out, which led to a wet patch on the porchway, which Kaden Pressy saw hours later? But would it still be there, the wet patch, hours later, or would it have dried up long before then? That's what you got to figure out and understand. The colder it is, the more it will remain there preserved. But the warmer it is, and dryness and evaporation and a breeze, that can speed up the drying process from the ground area. So that's worth acknowledging. But if it is true that Colton and Travis did it all on Saturday, well then by Sunday, and more so by Monday, that wet patch would not link to what Kaden saw. So that can be ruled out there. That's what's important. But it's just interesting how there are such huge discrepancies amongst one individual telling a story with certain individuals responsible for being present on a certain day, and then the involvement of a cooler, possibly in alcohol, for stealing alcohol and Jack telling them they can't come back, from what Kaden Pressy had said in a private conversation in the background, which I've witnessed myself and relayed to you within reason, if you remember, some weeks back now, maybe a month or two ago. Beside that, in regard to the other screenshots, what we've got here, the party house from the outside perspective, when Renee, husband, daughter Stephanie Milan, and boyfriend had returned back, Stephanie and boyfriend returning back specifically to the house. Doing what exactly? Tidying up, assisting. It differs there, doesn't it, from what Renee says to what Kaden Pressy says, as in who did what and when it happened, and then how things were left and why people left, different reasons and conflict. So we don't have a definitive answer there, just discrepancies, and that's not good. But if there was any rushing about at around 7 a.m, before or after, and it's like, right, we need to go now, or someone's ordered to go now because police are on the way, you might be rushing to speed up in clearing up, cleaning up and putting stuff away, and so on. It's interesting, the selectiveness, as in, one may be interested in gathering up the firearms to pass them to the rightful owners, or at some point do so, but get them away from the house as soon as possible. But the alcohol and other stuff and trash can remain because the police are going to know anyway that a party has taken place. So it's like, take what you can, which the police weren't aware of in the first place, of party footage. But the other stuff that's obviously obvious and been documented, well, there's no point in hiding that. So what you can hide, hide, and what you can't hide, leave it as it is. So it's still sneaky and it still seems selective, covering for some people in alternative ways. That's interesting, that. And I know some people got, well, AJ Whiny Williams got a bit cocky with me in terms of the outlook there, but then at the end of the day, there is video footage of Isaac Rojas with a bloody 12-gauge shotgun on camera in the background. So it's okay saying, let's gather the firearms. The police aren't going to know about that. Yes, they know a party taking place, but they're not going to know about the firearms. But they will when they've seen the footage at 1:05 in the morning of Isaac in the background holding a gun. And if there was any other footage elsewhere of firearms too. One firearm's more than enough. Person underage drinking, more than enough. All links there. So, gathering firearms up, when the ones that were mentioned were already in the, well, for the most part, with the exception of Jack maybe, were in the rightful owners that were on site. There's no need to gather them up. If the owners were there, they would take them back with them, and Kaden was going to gave the guys a ride back home so they could have the guns with them in the back maybe. But did Kaden Pressy have the cooler? Did Kaden Pressy take the cooler, or a cooler? That's what we're trying to work out as well. How many coolers are there at the party? 30 to 40 people over the course of Friday to Monday, coming and going in between, people bringing their own alcohol, people distributing, providing alcohol, coolers to keep it cool because of the weather and the temperature present. How many coolers in total were there? How many coolers were present simultaneously on Monday onwards? And how does it link and associate with Kaden Pressy being told to take it with him? Why couldn't somebody else do it? Renee says she never ordered Kaden to do it, but Kaden said Renee told him to do it. So who's really telling the truth there? And why does it matter? You know, if based on Kaden's outlook and what Renee says about there's no point clearing up the rubbish and trash because they're going to know the police that a party took place. Well, if the police know that a party's going to have taken place, then why be moving the cooler on with alcohol within it or an empty cooler? If you know a party's taken place, are you trying to minimise the focus on the alcohol aspect? Selective as in, yeah, a party's taken place, but let's just move the alcohol because we don't want anyone getting in trouble for the social hosting aspect. I wonder how in advance with people being cautious and aware and alert as in what should and shouldn't be done just in case anyone gets in trouble. And Kaden Pressy, is the one to take the blame or be the sacrificial lamb? But at the end of the day, if that really did happen, Kaden Pressy went through with it, if it's all true. Not blaming Kaden, but Kaden went through with it. If Kaden did not go through with it, what would have happened to him, I wonder? Weird dynamics, and even if it is a cooler, how many were present? Because, look, this clearly seems to be one there. That's if it is really a cooler. People say it is. I don't know personally because I've not really seen one before. I've not been present around one. And then the other potential cooler is the one which that guy sat on, supposedly. Same one or different? Well, that appears to be green. That one appears to be black. I'm not too sure if that's a cooler myself, but it might be. It might be a coincidence or not, but there is alcohol present outside at 1:05 in the morning of Monday, so a cooler could have been outside on site with cans like that were once in it. And somewhere in this area is where Georgia had thrown up or retreated to when slumped on the ground with her head covering her hands, knees tucked into her tummy, and drunk, sick, not doing too well. Where did Georgia throw up? Well, at 12:48 in the morning of Monday, if she threw up on the front patio area, the porchway it could have been washed down by someone walking by. They saw sick on the floor. Oh, let's wash that away. Now, why didn't Georgia go to the bathroom to throw up? In the toilet, in the bath, in the sink? Why run outside? To be honest, maybe it depends how close you are and where you are closest to get away to vomit. Maybe you can't hold it in. Maybe it's sudden and it's just a burst. For numerous reasons, it's understandable. Holding it as much as you can, running through the house to the front door, which is there, to just burst out and throw up all over on the ground there, where it's circled, which would be the front porchway. Is it guaranteed? No. Is it a possibility? Maybe, and then it's washed down by someone so no one steps in it. But even if that was the case, that's at 12:48. Washed down shortly afterwards from 12:48, 00:48 a.m. to 6:30 onwards. More than enough time for it to dry by then. So I don't think that would link to what Kaden witnessed. So there's got to be another reason or another event which caused the wetness. Could be a spillage. That's what I'm thinking, a spillage, not a washdown. You can let me know what your thoughts are and why Kaden Pressy was selected, of all people, to be taking the supposed cooler back, or as it's been claimed, is it just an outright rumour? And if it wasn't true, why did Kaden Pressy say it then? How does Kaden benefit by saying he was the one ordered to do this and that? To make him look like the victim, to make him look like on the receiving end of it all? Did it influence anyone in the general public sphere to see it in a darker way? You let me know your thoughts down below. I mean, as for Kaden Pressy himself, which is interesting, Kaden was reluctant and not willing to give Noah a ride home when Noah reached out, as in either Sunday night, Monday morning, because Kaden said, well, because in the past, when I was 18, I was in the car park, I was drunk, I was resting in the vehicle, police came across me, found me, and then I was charged or I was taken in for a day or a few hours, got in trouble, some consequences. I don't want to repeat that again. And Kaden said Noah understood and it was all okay. If Kaden was reluctant to drive because he felt drunk or it was still in his system at the time, that's responsible. But Kaden is okay in driving afterwards when he may have sobered up, but at the cost of taking a cooler full of alcohol, in which if you were stopped by police at any point, you could get in trouble for that. Kaden's willing to do that, but not to give Noah a ride home. No blame game there, but just trying to understand the comparison between being reluctant doing one thing, but okay doing the other. Maybe it's because the difference is, if anything went wrong with the latter, Kaden would get in trouble and take the blame for it. Whereas driving Noah back home, if anything went wrong, it impacts somebody else besides Kaden, and that's selfless in terms of thinking of that, considerate. So I get that, the consequences, depending on who it impacts. But if Caden's leaving at 7 in the morning or so, or if it was later, and at the right time, if so, matched with when the police were down there and it was cut off the road area, so you had to take a detour. Well, Kaden said he didn't stop. Kaden said he didn't chat with police. Now, did Kaden not chat with police or stop because he had a cooler in his vehicle and didn't want the police to see it, so he just had to drive on by, take the back road and just continue on? If Kaden supposedly didn't have the cooler in his vehicle, would he have stopped by and communicated with police? And if he did communicate with police, would that have changed any outcome in terms of how he's been treated onwards with the interviews and the proactiveness with the phone? Obviously, that's all what-ifs. Didn't actually happen, but, you know, would it have changed the outcome in any way with the case or Kaden himself? You let me know your thoughts below. With that all being said, hopefully you found the video somewhat interesting. If you want to hit the thumbs up, like button, share the video, that'd be much appreciated. Once again, a bit more of a hands-on approach with the usage of photos and pictures. If there was ever any more different angles and new party footage which has never been shown or seen before, pictures, snaps and all that, could go a long way, just simply down to the narration, because you look at one photo, it can tell a whole story and reveal a lot more than words can at times. So you let me know your comments below if you have any, whether you agree, disagree with the thoughts, the theories and the ideas, and we'll see where it goes from there. My name's Warlike Raf. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. Good night for now.